All right, folks, let's get going. Today is November 2nd, 2022. Welcome. Today is CALPADS Q A. My name is Alex Manriquez. I'm a data analyst at CSIS supporting CALPADS. Driving for us today, as always, is Gary. Going down to announcements. You all are probably well aware, but just want to make sure we mention the initial deadline for Fall 1 is December 16th. And there is no CELPA approval required for this initial deadline. So make sure that you have everything ready to go by December 16th. There was a flash 243 that came out on Monday, Halloween. And Gary's driving there. Wasn't very spooky, but it just talked about the first batch of CDDs, that those are the SCNR, SPRG, and SINF CDDs that were released as part of this Tuesday's release. And there are a couple of known issues there, CNR 439 F1 and SPRG 550 F1. So if you're getting a lot of errors there for prior years, you can go ahead and just skip those for now. We're working on those. The fixes for those are scheduled to be part of next Tuesday's release, as are the second batch of CDDs, which are related to the SPED and SSRV files. So that would be November 8th is our next release. And then also at the bottom of that flash, we talk about the error list. And we want to make sure that you all know that from the CALPADS footer, no matter what page you're on, the CALPADS footer will always have those different items there, documentations that you can click on. Gary's showing you on the screen right now. If you click on the error list, it's going to download the latest, greatest error list. And this is what already has the updates based on the new CDDs for Fall 1. And a couple things we wanted to point out on these is that the CDDs now have an F1 appended at the end of the error code, right? So for example, SCNR 26 now reads SCNR 26 F1 to signify a Fall 1 CDD. And then the other thing we want to point out is that those CDDs are now under the respective submission tab. So they're no longer going to be under the SCNR tab. You have to now go into the Fall 1 certification tab. And that's just because, again, CDDs stands for certification data discrepancies. These errors are fatal and will prevent you from certifying. And so they're under the Fall 1 certification. So you know which errors you need to focus on to be able to certify. And then lastly, Brandy won't be able to join us, unfortunately, but she's had a marathon of a couple of days from the quarterlies, so understandable. And Paula Mishima from CDE is here for a limited time, I understand. So if your question today requires CDE, we may ask that you submit a ticket instead. Martha, Angela, or anybody else from CDE that have any announcements?
Gary, if you could go back to CALPADS, just wanted to point out that the active and known issues in the footer is up to date with all the fixes that went in yesterday. So a couple of the ODS reports that weren't working are fixed now, 1.2 and 4.3 in particular. And the CERT 164 error is still outstanding. Unfortunately, we were hoping it would go in yesterday. It did not make it. So that means that some of your free and reduced lunch programs from last year are still open and still triggering that error. So hopefully next Tuesday.
Okay. So we'll get right on to question ones. And we're going to start off with Carol Park. Question 1 says, free or reduced meal program. We've had a few students indicate they are migrant on their lunch program application. How are we supposed to verify that, assuming we're supposed to? And do we then have to submit a 135 program to CALPADS, or is that just for Title I participants?
You have to have the migrant ID to use program 135. So I think that's proof that they're migrant if they have a migrant ID, right, Paula?
Correct. And there should be migrant liaison either at your district or with the county that provides your district with migrant students and their migrant IDs.
Thank you. Denise, question 1. Question about the STEM. In our HR system, oh, and Carol, I see your question too, but we're going to circle back to that. Denise, question 1 says, in our HR system, the highest degree codes for our senior admin, the superintendent, and the direct reports are set to N, none. This is because they are on management contracts and we don't track their units as we would for other certificated staff and teaching positions. Is there any problem to report these admins highest degree as N? Is this monitored by CalSAS or reported to any other agencies, for example, the dashboard?
Keeping track of their highest degree ticket, Denise, so
Yeah.
we can get you an accurate answer. We're kind of guessing. We don't know for sure.
Before you read Sandra's question, Alex, because it's a long one, that is a known error. So Gary, if you could go back to the known issues and show Sandra where she could find that. SPRG 550.
There it is.
There it is. Okay, 6401. So Sandra, hold off on reviewing those until that gets fixed. It should be fixed next Tuesday. It's triggering incorrectly, so don't waste your time on those for now.
Multi-ethnic. Would this primarily be a concern for SPED students, just disproportionality, or does this affect other areas like discipline?
Paula, we leave it to you or Joe. If there's Joe, he can tell us
Oh,
about
hi there.
disproportionality.
Yeah, so disproportionality, I'll send the link to the website right now, and it would point you to the information that you're looking for, Randy. So discipline is one of the areas that disproportionality is actually looking for. So if you click the link there, Gary, it would put you to that page. So if you look at the representation of that specific race in the pertaining disability category, discipline, and placement. So those are the 3 underlying that includes discipline as well. If you have further questions, Randy, the question or the email that you need to actually for is under the bottom of the page there. It's dispro@cde.ca.gov as well.
Okay. Catherine from Fowler Unified, question 1. While I am aware that there are additional assistance steps needed for this situation, my question is concerning state reporting for a student that has been marked as a no-show and then will follow up. It is found that the reason that the student has not been in attendance is due to medical concerns. What are the next steps for state reporting? Does the age of the student factor in for reporting needs? So for medical concerns, the student has not been attending. If the student is between the ages of 6 and 18, then they're under compulsory ed, right? And so we would need, they would fall under the whole SARB. Hello? If the student is not, if the student is below 6 years old or 18 and above, then I don't think that there's any compulsory ed, that qualifies a student, but.
And I think also, Alex, it kind of depends, was the student continuing with you so that you are responsible to find out, are they a dropout or not? But if they were matriculating to you and then they didn't show up, then you don't have to check to see if they're truant because you didn't have them before. So it's kind of involved. But if you had them last year and they were supposed to continue and then they didn't show because they had the medical, then you should follow up. But I don't know what code you would put in there, Paula, if they're on medical leave. I guess then you don't SARB them. You just found out that they're, I don't know, is that home and hospital then?
I'm sorry, what was the scenario?
A student that was no-showed, and then after follow-up, they realized that the student hasn't been attending because of medical concerns.
So, but they're not enrolled.
Right, they were no-showed. And so the question is, what are the next steps for state reporting?
And my point was that if the kid was continuing with them, they're responsible for finding out what happened to the kid. And in this case, they found out. But just because they're not going to school because of medical things, shouldn't they then be put on home and hospital and reported that way? You can't just stop reporting them, right?
Right. I mean, they should go on home and hospital. There used to be an exit code, I thought, but I don't know if we still have that exit code.
Well, they used an N470 because the kid didn't
Show
come
up.
back. But if they're home and hospital, wouldn't you have an enrollment saying that?
Yeah, that's the thing. If they're home and hospital, if they didn't come back because they had a medical issue, they really should have stayed enrolled and done some sort of home and hospital.
So, Catherine, you may need to send in a ticket and give us more details of were they with you previously.
Okay, so now we jump to Claudia from Hawthorne. Question 1. Do I have to resolve fatal error Cert 4 for students that enter after October 5th?
You don't need to do it for fall 1, but it's going to come back to haunt you in EOY if you don't take care of it. Because Census Day fall 1 is about kids enrolled as of Census Day. Although, is it triggering for kids afterwards, Angela?
That's what I was wondering.
I don't think it should. It does trigger the other scenario where they were with you and left before Information Day, and that's valid. They do want you to have all those cleaned up to Information Day. So I would be curious to know if you are finding students who were not enrolled on Information Day, or were enrolled on Information Day, but wait, what was the scenario?
They enter after October 5th.
And
Yeah.
there's a Cert 4.
That surprises me.
Yeah, as well. So, Claudia, we may need a ticket if that's your scenario. We wouldn't expect that.
Eugenie, question 1. Is there an ETA on the fix for known issue 6390, 132 and 142? Our LEAs are reporting hundreds of errors for these two.
So as far as I know, those errors are working correctly. It's just that they were displayed twice on the screen, once with 0 counts and once with the valid number of students that have the error. We have not seen that they're triggering inappropriately. If you think they are, we would need an example, an SSID, and an LEA.
One, fatal errors. Why are LEAs being asked to change the dates in CALPADS to make the system happy when the data is not accurate? It would make more sense to change the rules for this error when there is a grade level change on a Friday, Monday. And I believe that this is where the student exits with an E150 on a Friday, and then we're expecting the very next enrollment start date to be even on a Saturday or, the very next day.
But that error has been around for some time.
It used to happen on input in legacy CalPads, and now it's a CPD.
Oh, and then it brings up the first day. So they put in a Monday, now they got to get rid of that and bring it back to the day after on the Friday. I don't think there's anything in the works, Melissa, to adjust it. Expectation, it's the day after. But we can talk about it a little bit more because I can see how cumbersome it is to change start dates on enrollments. So it's a double whammy.
Well, we talked about this in the fall 1 training, and I think the important thing is to understand you're just indicating to the CDE that the student was promoted during the year. It's not exactly an exit, so the exit date is kind of arbitrary, the sequence of dates. Really, the important thing is the 150 code is being used. So I understand that you're thinking that it's not accurate, but the student never exited in the first place.
Teresa, was Flash 243 emailed out? We did not receive it. And that went out as part of the CalPADS listserv, right? So
We may have to check with Shana if she sent it to the CELPAs though,
oh,
because she says that or her title is RC CELPA. So I don't know if the CELPA.
I posted a link to it in the chat, so you can grab it.
And right before I saw that, Angela already did.
Aaron are talking. Carol from San Leandro says CDDs are not showing up on the certification error list. Will they eventually show up? And Martha just answered that.
I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. So the download report of your specific errors is what we were talking about. That's in the backlog, but the error list, which is in the footer of CalPADS, does have the new CDD. So make sure you're on 14.3.
I think that was maybe a confusion that Aaron was talking about. Carol, I see your question too, and we'll circle back. Sue-Ann, oh, she's just clarifying. Alex from Little Lake, question 1 says, at last week's meeting, Alex mentioned that we can now go into the SSID file that was submitted to view the new SSID. How does one do that? So I don't know if this is what I was talking about, the SSID extract. You can go under the extracts tab on the navigation bar, and Gary's showing you there now. And right in the middle, you'll see SSID extract. And something to keep in mind when you're running this extract is that the date range that you use when generating this report will pull any student that is enrolled within those dates. It doesn't matter whether you requested that SSID 4 years ago or yesterday. It's just going to show anybody that has an enrollment with your district within those date parameters. But within the file, you'll see the SSIDs and the date that the SSID was created. So should you want to just look at the ones that were created recently, you can filter on that column, and that'll give you the SSIDs that you just recently did. So I hope that's what I was talking about before. Okay. Aaron says, I'm not understanding what you mean by new error list. Where is that? Is it an ODS or snapshot? So Aaron, I hope that, do you want to?
Go ahead, Alex. I think you got it.
I was just going to reiterate what you had said earlier, which is there's two things that we may be talking about. One is the error list that Gary's showing you on the screen. It's on the footer, and that's just our regular error list that has all of it has the CDDs, right? And it has the updates that we made, and they're now under a different tab. So just be mindful when you're searching for the error that you're looking under the certification tabs to search for the CDDs. Then separately, we have the error, is it called?
Certification.
Thank you. Certification
report.
error list.
Maybe call it a report instead of a list.
Yeah. The certification error report, which is the 1.0, and that can be downloaded from the certification detail screen and also from the snapshots list. And that doesn't currently have the CDDs on there, but we're working on that one.
You can only see them in the interface. You have to actually log in to look at them.
All right. Marshall is referencing a Q&A from October 5th, where we talk about migrant program questions. So you can look at our YouTube channel. Our recordings for all of our Q&As are listed there. So Go back to that one. Joanne and Aaron are still talking. And Joe posted the link to the disproportionality link at 3:09 timestamp. Rebecca from Lancaster, question 1. Our staff inputting our migrant programs wanted to know how should she enter migrant dates if the qualifying arrival dates overlapped? She said she uses the QAD as the start date of the program 135 in our SIS, but it fell in between the other 3-year span. What's the best practice for this, please?
Paula with us? She gone? Oh, she's gone probably. Becca.
Oh, wonder if
What?
the data guide has that information.
I don't think it goes into that detail. I never really talked about qualifying arrival dates. Quad.
So maybe we need a ticket then if the data guide doesn't show, because there is that neat little table that shows what the start date should mean, right? And then whether or not you can close it. There we go.
Section 3.1.4 is the migrant section, and it suggests for the education program membership start date represents the date that the student was determined to be eligible for the migrant program at any school in California for a particular eligibility period, maximum of 3 years. If the student is determined to be eligible again, then the new record should be submitted with the new start date.
And also, from the Q&A last week, I think Brandy discussed about migrant entering start dates and dating future dates for migrant records and exiting migrant. And I am putting that in the chat right now.
So somewhere you're making a determination they're eligible, and that's the date you use for the program start date, regardless of qualifying arrival date.
Yeah, I think we've always recommended that you, at a period of 3 years, you would, even though we understand that the program is continuing and all they did was be eligible again, that you would use a new start date. And that's not of any consequence as far as the data collection. And I think we have a warning for fall 1 if the period extends more than 3 years as well, which would be suggestive of using a newer date.
So Rebecca, if none of that still, that doesn't answer your question, see if we can figure that out for you. Then we move on to Amy. Question 1 says, I need a refresher. How to download the Direct Cert report so that we get the correct Direct Cert effective start date? Is the start date linked with when students enrollment with our district? I'll opt to enter a date range Direct Cert date as of July 1st, 2022. Am I going to get the start date when student was at a different district? I believe this date range is their enrollment, right? It's students that were enrolled with you during those specific date parameters.
Yes, that's my understanding. Because then you see the 2 fields there. I don't know, Amy, if you checked the user manual and typed in direct certification extract, there's a lot of helpful explanations of requesting the DC extract and what those different values mean. You want extract. Well, okay, there it is. So we break it down.
Oh, and it does say right there under the date range section, number 6, date range of the student enrollment.
And then I think in the actual extract, isn't there a date of when they were direct certified?
It's number 8, I think, on there.
In the extract itself?
Yeah. But I
Number 8.
believe, yeah, on that same,
Number 9th field, I think.
oh,
I don't know about the numbers, but in the extract itself, it's the 9th field.
When you get it.
the date that the student was directly certified is going to remain the same regardless of whether they were enrolled with you or not, right?
Right.
So it's not like it's going to change if you use different date ranges, Amy. Okay. Then we move on to Laura from Santa Rosa City Schools says, in regards to Catherine Fowler's question 1, can we use the medical reason code? I thought 40 was the
Isn't that dropout?
dropout.
Well, if it's determined that they're not going to school and they should.
Okay. Amy, I see your question 2. We'll circle back. And 315. Margarita says, is Title III eligible immigrants the same as Title III migrants? Is it different than Title I migrants? Don't know.
Well, the
What was
only
that?
place where I hear the term migrant is in migrant ed. Title III eligible immigrants is always just immigrants. So I've never heard of a Title III migrant. But immigrants, Title III immigrants is different than migrants. 2 different things.
Seems like Erin got her answer. Sorted that out. Suanne, question 1 says, on September 1st, an NPS SPED student transferred back to our district and is being evaluated for placement, not attending school. Should the student enroll with an attendance exemption 9/1 through October 26th, and then enrolled October 27 like other students, or should the student have another enrollment type? SELPA says that legally the student must be enrolled during placement evaluation time. I don't know if Joe, you would know.
I mean, at the district level at the meantime, right? The primary 10, while being on the placement time, student actually have an actual school attendance, whereby at that point they could actually do an N470 exit, correct? It's kind of synonymous to CALPADS Flash 207 guidance when the student is actually evaluated during, let's say, next academic year, for instance, for that matter. So I think the guidance would actually be appropriate in this circumstance where it would be at the district level with a primary. And then once the student actually have enrolled, then you could actually send another 10 with the school of attendance appropriate to that student.
Thanks, Joe. At the 317 timestamp, you have 2 links, Angela and the other one from Gary, and that's on for the Flash 243. Melissa has a follow-up to question 1, so I am going to, I don't know how many how many questions we have, so I'll jot it down and circle back. Sabrina, question 1 says, what do we do for errors or warnings for students who have graduated high school or have moved and are not part of reporting for 22-23? Well, for errors that are triggering, errors that are triggering, maybe that's part of the known issues that we have. I would wonder what error you're getting for students that are not enrolled this year. So Sabrina, if you could submit a ticket, you can put attention Alex on it because you shouldn't have errors triggering for students that aren't enrolled. And then Erin says there was some confusion, but no worries. Barbara says, Angela, to what 14.3 were you referring? A report?
The error list in the footer of CalPADS, it's the version number.
Mm. Okay. Okay. And then at the 322 timestamp, Nathan posted the link to how to obtain Muley S and the SSI extract. So that's 322. Okay. Carol, you have to end the migrant program record 1 day before the new start date. Oh, okay. Thanks, Carol. Marshall at the 324 timestamp has included the timestamps within the Q&A for when we're talking about migrant and how to enter start and end dates for them. Alex, you have a question too. Rebecca from Lancaster has a follow-up. Okay. The 327 timestamp, Angela posted a link to the direct cert extract page from our user manual. And Kyron says, always use 7.1 as certified since date for direct cert. Always use 7.1 as certified since date for direct cert extracts. Ed says, can or should Adele students have a LIP SPRG record? I believe there are certain LIP records that are specific to only ELs. And you would get an error if you used those LIP records for non-EL students.
I did check Cert 146. It only triggers as missing a LIP program on English learners.
So not required, Ed, but double check. And I can't think of the error off the top of my head, but that if you are going to give LIP records to these students, that they're not ones that are specific to just ELs. I think you should be good. Doug says, regarding migrant program records, the answer that I have been told by our migrant team is that the existing migrant record must be closed and the new record needs to start with the new QAD date. This does create a lot of extra work for our migrant department since we have students whose parents move out of the area for a short time and then requalify, thus creating new records and additional work to close the existing records. Thanks, Doug. Amy, I think that's a follow-up. So we'll circle back. And then Laura says, sorry, wrong exit reason for medical reason. Oh, it's the correction reason is. So.
Yeah, that would work.
Okay, and then another follow-up from Catherine. And then Claudia's saying that she's also having 2 students that graduated last year with a Cert 4. So maybe new bug. Jody, question 1. I have a student attending 4 periods at a comprehensive high school, 180 minutes a day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tuesdays and Thursdays is 200 minutes a day. They attend the community college the other 3 periods of the day. We currently have her coded as no ADA because I was always taught 5 graded classes for ADA. The new legislation, education code, sections 46146 and 46146.5 specify minimum day requirements for dually enrolled students, grades 9 through 12 enrollment in community college for not enrolled Right. So then it says, how do we do this? We have asked Aries.
Line. We need a ticket. It's quite lengthy.
But I almost wonder if this is more of an attendance accounting question and not so much of a CalPADS question.
Well, we'd give it to Brandy, and Brandy would get the answer by maybe either telling you to contact the.
Who is the email she always gives us on these attendance questions? Anybody remember?
Yeah, attendance accounting, I believe. If you go to CDE's website. And then you search for.
So it says we have asked Aries, CDE, and the auditors, and they all say they don't know. So who it's. So if you give us a ticket, we'll pass it over to Brandy.
Oh, they did contact attendance accounting. Okay. So yeah, I guess.
Yeah, not us.
Brent.
We're not the right people to answer any attendance questions.
All right. It also has. I think Jody wins for the longest question ever asked. So, okay, Jody, you'll submit a ticket. And question 1, should we upload a SIM for all students so you have the most current address for the PEBT benefits distribution? I think that's wise.
I think that's what Paula said today in one of the quarterlies.
Yeah. Divya, question 1. We have a student who has been marked as N4 exit in the old school on August 16th, but the student started with us on August 8th. When I submit program file, I'm getting a GER5 error. How do we resolve this?
We got to know what the program record code is.
I'm wondering if the old school is within your LEA and the program file still has the old school as school of attendance. So maybe if you can submit a ticket and give us the job ID where you're getting the GER5, we can do more analysis. Okay, Karen's talking to Ed. Mary Masters says, I think Cert 146 has more to it than is listed on the known issues list, PM 6372, which states invalid for RFEBs. My Cert 146 includes ELs with LIP program records that started in prior years, the same school, and are open-ended.
I can take a look at that for you, Mary. This is Angela. If you want to put in a ticket for me and ask for me. Make sure that that bug fix covers both scenarios.
And Divya, if you, then if it's not, if the old school is not within your LEA, then yeah. Yeah, you could submit a ticket with the job ID and ask for Alex, and I can take a look and figure out why you're getting that GER5. All right, we're going to circle back.
SLP. So I know migrant and homeless do not extend, and put a link to the CDE's website, which explains that. Just give me a moment.
All right, going down to Carol at 305. Okay, question 2, triggering because change in mid-year update occurred over the weekend and could not be coded the next day. I used 160 and the errors cleared. Is that okay?
if you're doing a grade change, it should be Nate mentioned earlier, the date when the subsequent day start date drops, either a Saturday or Sunday or Friday, that doesn't even matter as long as the subsequent enrollment start date is after the exit date of that E150.
But their issue, Kyron, is that oftentimes they're making that change on a Friday, and then their system uses Monday as the next start date, and they're getting an error because that's what happened, and it should have been the day after the previous E150.
So okay, so the system automatically enters the start date because they can input the start.
I'm not sure what the SIS does.
Yeah.
But right now in CalPads, it wasn't done properly, so it's triggering the error. And so now they have to go clean it up, which that's what people are finding difficult. And so I suppose you could use a T160, but they really didn't transfer. And I think that was the whole purpose why CDE added in the code of E150, because they wanted to know that there was no change in enrollment necessarily, no school change, and that the kid still is in the same school, but something about their enrollment changed. And so to do a T160 kind of skews that. But
And wouldn't it trigger an ERD?
Yes, it ERD actually.
that
So
says you re-enrolled at the same school that you
but
exited?
yeah.
You used the T160, but they didn't go anywhere else.
Oh,
So it would be better to just change the date on a Thursday and either a Thursday and Friday or Monday and Tuesday if you guys are still particular with the weekends. So
going forward, but this is after the fact. The data's already in there incorrectly. And it's a pain, right, to change the start date. And that's what they have to do.
To delete the existing record. And
You can't exit a kid on a Sunday. The SIS definitely won't let that happen. But you can have a start date on the weekend because we have this problem, this rule. So it's a tough one. We'll bring it up and have discussions, but I think for the time being, to clear those, you guys have to have it the day after, and you have to go through the hassle of removing that enrollment and adding it back in with the correct start date.
All
And
right.
you should check with your vendors too, or
You
that
know,
they're using the start date the day after.
Martha and I talked about this already earlier today. So after I got off the phone with you, Martha, I spent some time looking, and all of the ones that I found that were out of sequence or out of the bounds of what the error is supposed to trigger on were online maintenance edits. So I vaguely recall having this conversation with vendors years ago where they kind of put up a stink about it because, like you said, they don't want to put an exit date on the weekend. But I thought they had gone back and just altered their extract to make that happen. So if you're manually inputting those dates and it doesn't match what your SIS is extracting, that could be part of the problem. So it might be a good question for your vendor too.
also, this has not been an issue before until post redesign when the start date can't be edited anymore. Before, LAs are just fine,
That we wouldn't let it in.
Yeah.
We wouldn't let the enrollment in. But now it's a CDD and you're fighting it after the fact.
Yeah.
So it does make it cumbersome.
All right. I'm going to move on to question 2 from Amy, and that's at the 312 timestamp. It says home and hospital. If a student is indeed at a home and hospital who took over education instruction for only 2 days or less than a week's time as their primary enrolled LEA, do we need to exit them for 2 days, 3 to 5 days to enroll them, then have to re-enroll them after they return only 2 days later? And then adds, school wants to know if they can mark the kid in home hospital for 2 days and sick instead of disenrolling, then re-enrolling messes up sections, or just enter home and hospital as a code that maps to home and hospital.
I say a ticket, Amy, so we can get clarification.
Okay. Melissa has the follow-up at 320. And it's a follow-up to the question 1 about, so it says, the errors are from last school year, 21-22, and our SIS doesn't allow enrollment changes on non-school days. If I manually change the dates in CalPads, then the next time I send an SCNR file, they will be changed again to match the SIS.
I think we need a
Right
ticket
then.
to see that the error is happening on prior year data.
I have it. Yeah.
Yeah, this bubbling up today for sure. I do feel like the vendors did something though, so I wonder if you could check your extract and verify what date it's being pulled. Is it the one that's displaying as the exit date, or do you have a handle on that, Alex?
Yeah, so in this particular instance, the error is triggering correctly. And if we look up the error number in the error list, you'll see there's a little blurb at the bottom that says that it's pulling records for students from that fall within the no-show.
Okay.
So that's why it's pulling in records from
Previous
21-22. I mean, I don't know that we can resolve the issue about if you do the change manually and then you resend the file from your SCNR. I don't know how you would reconcile both, I guess is what I'm saying, because your SIS won't let you.
I think, yeah, partly it would say you can't change a primary key, right? You're going to remove it, and CalPads is going to have a start date that isn't the same as your SIS. And so the subsequent SIS won't come in anymore because we're going to say, can't change the primary key. But then
And
it causes you a problem because now it's rejecting your SCNR file and you got to weed them out. Yeah, what a mess.
so Gary's showing you the error list on the screen, and for under the suggested resolution, column G, there's a section that says suggested resolution, and then there you'll see it shows SCNR exists where enrollment exit date is between the no-show from and through dates. So you kind of have to dig for it, but it is there.
So we'll bring it up and have more discussions on this.
We're going to go to question 2 from Alex from Little Lake, and that's a 325 timestamp. Says, for the LIP program, the data guide states that we do not need to close the program if a student leaves. What is the rule if the student transfers schools within the district?
But they have to add a new program record at the new school, because you'll never know if the same student will move back to the old school within the same year. So just leave those records open. Make sure that the LIP program at the new school is recorded.
Thanks, Kai. Move on to a follow-up from Rebecca, and that was 326. Oh, right below that. Says, follow up to my question regarding migrant start dates. Nobody has addressed the part about my actual question, that the start date is overlapping with the prior 3-year qualified period. So sounds like I need a ticket submitted. Yeah, I know there were a couple people right here, right, that mentioned that you do have to have the start date after. You got to end date the previous one and start again.
Yep. Doug mentioned that as well. Can't have them overlapping.
Amy has a follow-up at 329. And it says about DC date versus SP start date. But for program enrollment, we have to use start date student enrolled with our LEA and not the direct cert effective date. That's a problem I'm not clear on.
So reporting a program 181 for a student who is directly certified is just redundant reporting, because in terms of local control funding formula and all of the reports, the student is only counted once, regardless if you have a 181 or a DC. So, however, if you still want to report the program 181, it should always be equal to within the enrollment period.
Catherine has a follow-up on her question 1 at the 3:32 timestamp. The student is 18 and has been enrolled with us since kinder. This is what I have found. The pupil has the right to return to his or her prior school or another appropriate school within his or her school district at the end of the semester, following the semester when the acts leading to the referral occurred. And so that's just section. They have the right to return until he or she turns 22 years of age. I believe that this is the student that was no-showed, right? And for medical reasons hasn't re-enrolled. And so if the student is 18, then you can use an E400. The student is not under compulsory ed anymore. And so that'll take care of that. And then when the student is ready to return, you can just re-enroll. Ed has a follow-up at 3:36. Follow up on my question 1. It seems Adele with a 305 is triggering 1. Is that correct? Let's take a look.
Somebody looked it up. Is it you, Kyron, that looked it up?
Yes. So
Oh.
essentially, it only triggers for EL. Those codes is for EL students. I'm not sure if it's something with the business rules, but that SPRG 50 only looks for EL status. So I'm not sure if requirements has to even add the Adele code in there as well.
So Ed, if you want to put in a ticket, I can double check with our requirements team just to make sure that Adele was intentionally excluded. But it seems from the error list that it is triggering correctly because I remember it's specific to just EL students. So I can double check for you. All right, so I think those are all my question 1 follow-ups. Where did I leave off? I believe Robin would be my next Q1. Says, are SSIDs and SCNR records required for non-special education preschoolers? Good question. I want to say
What timestamp are you on, Alex?
3:41.
I got lost.
Because if you, it's in the SSID enrollment procedures. It's an old document, but it's optional for preschoolers who are non-special education students.
I think it's in the data guide too, that you may, but you don't have to submit them.
Michelle from Lake E says E150 Saturday and Sundays are not calendared days, so it causes errors. So we'll take it back and talk through all of that. Sean's question 1, kinda, says, I don't see on the known issues list that the SPRG ODS extract is not rendering correctly for when inputting 21-22 school year, specifically for 181-182. However, if you pull the extract for multiple years, I did 10, then last year is included and everything comes back. I haven't heard about this one. So Sean, if you can submit a ticket, please, and maybe give us an SSID example that we can look at, and we'll log that. Carol has a follow-up on question 2. Says, it was just a teacher or inter-district change. Got it. But I mean, yeah, the T1.
It's in the error list, the 4 things that possibly can change.
Usually it's a grade level is what we see.
Okay, and then at the 3:45 timestamp, Nathan put the link to the direct cert, the eligibility. Amy says the E150 problem will occur on all students exiting last day of school before a break also. Well, you wouldn't use E150 for all your students exiting on the last day. That would be an E155 if they're coming back. And then Sean says that E150 has always said next day. Most SIS can calculate, but if there is a non-attendance date, then it doesn't work. You can edit the enrollment date in the SIS. I just did it today and in CalPads while in this call. Cool. Thanks, Sean. Michelle says the weekend will cause problems for attendance accounting polls for audits. Shelly says Aries makes E150 work if it is on the last day of the week.
I thought that
Great.
most vendors had adapted to that. So it may not be visible to you on your screen, but at the time that they do the extract, they do some magic.
Amy says PowerSchool will always subtract one school day, which will exclude any weekends and holidays. How are we doing with time? Maybe we can skip the E1.
It's 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go down to question 1 from Laura. Says, is it possible to give us an update on these ticket submission requests? Meaning that next week, is it possible to tell us what the outcome is? I would be interested in the home hospital question as well. We often exit for a day or two for students who are hospitalized outside of our area and then return. So I do know that there was a flash a while ago, and I don't know if it was been archived since, now, but it was around students that have to go to a hospital facility. There was a code that was created for temporarily not enrolled within your SIS so that it would automatically subtract those days that you use that attendance code from the days expected to attend from your SAS file. So I would have you maybe start there and double check with your SIS if there's a way that you can create an attendance code that says temporarily not enrolled. Because I know that there was a flash and I can't remember the number of the flash, but you can come back next week and ask the same question and we'll have an update for you probably. Alyssa, question 3, just change the rules to add more than one day to allow Friday, Monday, 150 changes. So
I think it defeats the purpose of the reporting office, what they were trying to accomplish with that.
So more E150s. Aaron, question 2. Question 2, I have a student who has a SIMF record from a different district with dates that overlap my enrollment record. The student does not have an enrollment record that matches with the SIMF record, so I'm not sure why the other district has it there, but it has caused an error for me. Sorry if that's confusing. I just can't input a SIMF because the other district has one overlapping with mine. So I believe that you should be able to insert a SIMF even if it overlaps with another one, and CalPADS should be smart enough to adjust the dates for you, so long as you have an overlapping enrollment with that SIMF record that you're trying to submit.
Erin gave me an SSID. It looks like the cert error is triggering for her, and her enrollment was last year. She doesn't have an active enrollment this year, but her synth was from last year and it's causing her a cert 4. So it sounds like a possible. I'm sending it up.
Okay. Okay, more talk on the question 3 from Claudia says, FYI, all my direct cert students were not counted in the group for social disadvantaged students in the CASPs. And that would be a question for
I don't know what the date is. Was it last year? What's going on there, Claudia? That's pretty vague. If you need us to investigate, then send in a ticket and give us more details. date ranges.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for sticking it out with us. I will see you all next. Oh no, I won't see you next week. I'm going to the Aries conference. I'll see some of you at the Aries conference. Thanks everyone for helping out today. Appreciate it. Hope you have a good rest of your week.